Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Geopolitical and Military News. In this video, we will discuss the intentions and plans of former President Trump for Ukraine in the event of victory in the presidential elections. Since the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, former President Trump has given several interviews in which he claimed to have what he called the perfect plan to end the war. Although he never provided many details about the supposed plan, it was implied by his statements that his plan would involve halting the supply of weapons to Ukraine and the consequent collapse of the entire combat front. Without weapons and ammunition from the United States, Russia would be able to advance, with Putin managing to annex all the territories he desires. Thus, through the defeat of Ukraine, the war would end. This was Trump's grand plan to bring peace to that corner of Europe, a plan that, as you can imagine, pleased the Russians and pro-Russians deeply, displeasing the pro-Ukrainians and, generally, almost all NATO members. The big problem is that for them, if Putin wins in Ukraine, he will continue advancing against other countries, starting with non-alliance members like Georgia and Moldova, but inevitably reaching member countries like Finland and the Baltic states, nations that share a direct border with Russia. Therefore, in the view of these leaders, the end of Western support for Ukrainian defense would quickly end the war, as it would give victory to Putin. But this victory would act as a catalyst for new Russian aggressions, which would inevitably plunge the entire Europe into war. This alleged plan of Trump's, which as I said was never formalized in detail by the former president and current candidate, gained strength from October 2023, with the rise of Republican Congressman Mike Johnson to the post of Speaker of the Congress. As soon as Mike Johnson took office, he announced that he would not put to a vote in the Republican majority Congress the package of nearly $61 billion in military aid that had been proposed by the Democratic majority Senate. This decision initiated a long period of months of delays in the approval of this package, a delay that forced Ukraine to ration weapons and ammunition, allowing Russia to advance in a series of directions, notably in Avdiivka, in the Donetsk region. Since the Republican majority Congress is strongly influenced by Trump, the plan to cut military aid to Ukraine, aiming to end the war through Russian victory, gained strength, leading many to fear that, in the event of Trump's victory in the presidential elections, Ukraine would be totally abandoned by the United States, resulting in its inevitable defeat. However, as everyone knows, in April, the billion-dollar aid package was approved by Congress, with Mike Johnson radically changing his stance and discourse, even saying several times that Russia is one of the United States' main enemies and that, therefore, Putin cannot win in Ukraine, and that the only way to prevent this is through the continuation of sending military aid to Kiev. The change in stance of Congressman Mike Johnson, coupled with the 101 votes in favor in the Republican caucus of 213 members that allowed the approval of the billion-dollar aid for Ukraine, seemed to indicate that, after all, Trump's plan for Ukraine is not quite what many think. It is important to emphasize that officially Trump has no role or direct influence in the United States Congress. However, being the Republican presidential candidate and the most media-savvy Republican personality, what Trump determines has a great weight in the decisions made by other Republican politicians. Therefore, based on this, an important question arises: what are Trump's plans for Ukraine if he wins the next presidential elections in the United States? I emphasize again that, for now, there is still no official statement from Trump on this. However, in the face of the evidence presented here, such as Mike Johnson's change in stance and the 101 Republican votes that allowed the approval of the billion-dollar package for Ukraine, Trump may, after all, have a very similar vision to that of his Democratic rival Joe Biden, but with a fundamental difference. While Biden does not stipulate strict rules regarding how the financial aid will be repaid by Ukraine, Trump argues that this aid should be provided in the form of loans, with clear programs for their repayment, which was, incidentally, the way the package was approved in Congress, with Mike Johnson amending the original Senate-approved bill and including clearer rules regarding the payment of the financial aid offered to Kiev. As I said, despite Trump not having an official role in Congress, what he desires and decides ultimately influences the Republican caucus. Therefore, if the package was put to a vote and, more importantly, if almost half of the Republican caucus voted in favor of this package, it is because Trump, after all, wanted it. This seems to indicate that, contrary to the signals he sent during the 2 years of war, Trump's and Biden's positions regarding Ukraine are very similar, changing only in the way and rigor involving how this aid will be subsequently paid by Ukraine. If this is confirmed, it will be excellent news for Kiev and a great disappointment for Moscow. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time.